Hello everybody. I am just eating my breakfast. This angles are like, see, it's either I cut off my face or I have to raise up my food in this weird ass angle. Yeah. So it's a trade-off between cutting off my face or getting a shot of my food. So I'm just gonna have to raise up the food to show you. So well, okay. So this is the end of a weekly cycle of my 3-2. So last week I ate on Sunday, fasted for 2 days, ate on Wednesday. I didn't show anything of the Wednesday refeed, and then fasted for 3 days, and now it's Sunday again. So honestly, yesterday I had to eat something because I was feeling a little off, woozy, because I think I was up and about outside, and then I was just feeling tired and winded. So I give myself the option now to like eat something small under 500 calories, and I ate pickles and pate, literally. There's more of his eggs. So that was that. I didn't remember to take a body shot this morning after I weighed in. So I weighed in and don't know at 154. Last time it was like 155. So it was in the fasted state. Now tonight, who knows what I'm gonna weigh. After the last Sunday's refeed, which I didn't really go over because I ate a lot. Sardines. After the last Sunday's refeed, I seriously like gained 5 pounds. I know that really fucked with my head. So I was like, whatever. It just means I have to be very disciplined about refeeds. So, but I guess by Wednesday I was back. I wasn't back to my fasted weight of last Sunday and Wednesday. That's around like 157. And then on Wednesday I was disciplined. I was like, look, I'm going to have to weigh myself continuously during the day when I'm refeeding. So what that means is that I have to keep track of how much I'm eating. So if it's not like I ate 5 pounds of food, it's just like if you eat a lot of carbs, then and you drink water, your body just retains all the water. So it just, it just holds on to everything. So On Wednesday, I was just like, so I didn't cut off carbs entirely. I still had my dessert, but it just meant that I had to eat smaller, really. So it can be like 5,000 or 4,000 calories. I think probably I can do maybe at most 3,000 calories, which of the majority of that not being carbs. And then so I think for last Wednesday I just sort of cut down on the carbs a little bit, so that refeed gain was only about 3 pounds, which was happy with. And then with that 3 pound regain, I sort of lost that kind of lost quite a bit over like over this last 3 days. And here I am sitting at 154 fasted. So wish me luck for this refeed. You know, when this refeed, I'm sort of prioritizing all the food that I should eat. So the sardines, the eggs, the pate. When ideally I have to eat like 100 grams of protein per day. At least 100 grams on my refeeding. Those are the priorities. And then the junk can come later. This fast was a little hard in the last 3-day fast though. It's harder. That last night, I couldn't sleep at all. Just wired. So this is why I don't like fasting, because I alternate between being so wired I can't really being wired and very alert, and then being weak and tired. So last night, like while all day I was sort of like walking around doing my own thing and feeling not kind of a little winded and tired. But then at night, I was just like, I couldn't sleep. I was just wired. Pate that I have to eat with a fork, because I'm like, that's how I roll. So yeah. No. So I wouldn't say I was just really wired. I was wired and alert, but also in the cross of being hungry, but it's a weird hunger, because it's not like, it's more like a mental state of this mental awareness of being hungry and something needs to be done about it, but your stomach isn't really feeling it. So I was tempted to eat a little something last night, just so that I can sleep. But I was like, I'm just gonna wait till the morning and have an early breakfast. 10:30 is kind of early to eat for me. I prefer to eat after 12, because that way I can give myself like an 8-hour eating window. I eat at 10:30, that means I would like to stop eating by 6 o'clock tonight, but probably not gonna happen. Okay. In terms of my apartment search, I think I found them. the perfect apartment, but the good enough apartment for $300 cheaper than what I pay here. We're a pandemic for crashing San Francisco rents. It's funny. So still in the tenderloin, and a little deeper than I would like, but I can't pass up something that's $300 cheaper than what I pay right now. I really can't pass that up. No, there's rents. So right now I pay $1,800, and it started at $1,725 about 2.5 years ago. So rent control, I get like 3%, 2 to 3% increases every year. So I was already going to move next year when the rent will increase again, because I was like, I don't think I want to pay above $1,800 for this place I have here. It doesn't feel worth it to me. So in retrospect, I think that moving, like if I tried to move this time without COVID happening, I think I'd have been very disappointed with like the stock of apartments that are available for $1,800 around here. It would have meant that I probably I'd have to have stuck in the deeper tenderloin or something to find something reasonable. But COVID. So the price ranges I was seeing is that at the edge of the tenderloin, you could see decent-ish apartments for like $1,700 or $1,800, but they were having trouble renting, because I was also seeing like nice buildings in which the apartments were like going down to like on the edge of the tenderloin for like $1,600 and $1,650. If I wanted, and then I thought that maybe, okay, let me increase the price a bit. Like, let's see what's happening at around $1,800, but outside of tenderloin, like going up into lower Nob Hill and Nob Bay Hill areas. And at that price, at $1,800, you're all looking at shitty apartments. At least at $1,700, you're all looking at shitty apartments in the nicer Nob Hill area. And if you really wanted something, like you're looking at boxes in nicer areas. It was kind of depressing, but I guess it makes sense. Just like, you know what, opening up your window, you think that opening up your spending window a little bit, you think that you would get nicer options. But I guess you get nicer options as in that you get nicer areas, but not nicer apartments. If I really wanted a nicer apartment, like really nice apartment, I have to consider spending $2,000 a month, which is about what they said. People on the doc, they said, yeah, if you wanted a nice studio, you would be spending like $2,500 a month. That was the going rate pre-COVID. But now, so I'm not about to spend $2,000 a month. So like, it was not really worth it for me to like go into a nicer area, because even if I was going to be like, okay, I'm paying $1,800 now, so let's see what we can get for $1,800 in a nicer area. It would have been a box. Yeah. And then, especially in the Nob Hill area, you stop seeing like high rises. In Tenderloin, there's a lot of like, not high rises per se, but there's a lot of like tall story buildings with like 6-5 floors, and because they have 6-5 floors, they would have like a shitty elevator. So that's the Tenderloin. But like once you go up into Nob Hill, you have smaller houses. You have smaller buildings that probably don't have a manager, because they don't have the number of units. They don't, because I think in California your building has to have at least like, I think 15 units to get a manager, to have a living manager. And so like once you go up to the Nob Hill, you'll see smaller buildings that don't have a manager. And when they don't have a manager, then you have this really dicey mail situation where, you start having, so you don't get central mail anymore. The mail can be outside, and then forget about getting packages, because yeah, if you because yeah, you start having dicey mail situations. It's a nicer area, but like the building itself, it's not nice, because you have this, either have individual mail slots that are outside, or maybe they're inside but there is no manager. And forget about someone at least maybe keeping an eye out for your packages, because package theft is an issue here in San Francisco. Let's just say that if you're struggling with your finances, don't come to San Francisco. It's nice, but I would not recommend anybody coming to San Francisco if finances are an issue whatsoever. It's just a difficult place to live. You know. Yeah. So a manager in the building helps, especially if it's a diligent manager in the building, really helps with this package situation, because you might help people like move it up or change the code as needed on the building if they know it's like a little too many on strangers are being able to have access to the building. So yeah, because I remember before this apartment, I had a sublet in like North Beach, which was really, the area is really nice. You have like the Italian restaurants, and there's Chinatown. I love being close to Chinatown. That's how I used to go to Chinatown all the time. Being awkward in Chinatown, call it. And then you had North Beach, where all like the fishermen's wharf and the ocean. So it's really nice. And the person I was subletting to had been in that apartment for like several years. So that's another thing that's in this dicey situation. It's like you get a lot of people who have been living in San Francisco for years, and in rent control buildings, being the master tenants, and then somehow like taking advantage of their master tenants status to charge market rents to the roommates they let move in, which is illegal. It's illegal to be the master tenant and pay more and pay less rent than the new tenant, because you're capturing all the market rates. But it was a sublet, so I didn't really want to complain about that. Soup. But that building, but the building itself was not nice. It only had like maybe four. Yeah, it only had like maybe 4 apartments. The meal was inside. Actually, the meal was outside, and there was no manager. So I really couldn't get packages in that building. Just if you can't get a package in the building, that's such a reduction in your like lifestyle. Because I was coming from LA, and in LA I was renting from this lady who had a condo in like East LA. And package theft was never something I really ever thought about. Because it was not even, it's not that it was a condo especially. It was never something. It was a secured building. Yeah, the mill was all in the central area, and then there was with the condo there's someone who manages everything on site. So package theft was never anything. Although there were instances, but it was never something that I ever thought about. That I really ever thought about. But I don't know. And in terms of package theft, it's sort of like the richer areas aren't less affected than the poorer areas. If anything, I think probably like the Nob Hill, once going to Nob Hill, Russian River, and all of those nice areas, they have like people who especially roam there to steal packages. You know, they have gangs who roam there to steal packages. But San Francisco is not a place to be in if you're struggling or trying to get a feed. I kind of wonder how people do it, because if you have a family and you're trying to rent, it's not worth it. I don't see how it's worth it for anybody. It's much better for you to find a medium to low cost city, especially if you're like especially if you don't think your income potential. If you don't think your income potential is going to grow beyond 6 figures, yeah. If you don't think your income potential is going to grow beyond 6 figures, do not go. Do not. I don't recommend going to living in a high cost living city. I would recommend it. The quality of life, personally for me, the quality of life trade-offs. So like imagine if you're a restaurant worker here, you have to have a roommate. And even with a roommate situation, it's not like a roommate is that's another reason I don't care to look for roommates. It's because it's like it's not that cheap either. Like in San Francisco, the roommates, it's like I'll be looking at maybe, if you're lucky to find a rent controlled apartment who has a master tenant that's lived there for years and the master tenant is fair and being honest, you can maybe find like rent for like $1,000 to like $1,300 as a roommate. But if not, expect to spend $1,500, $1,600, and if you're living in corporate apartments like the ones that is fancy and all new stuff, I expect to spend $2,000 just to share an apartment. So I was like, for a studio, even though it's shitty situation in the studio, I was like, I'm not going to, I can spend if I can spend $1,700 in a studio, I'm not going to spend $1,700 to share an apartment with somebody else. So yeah, it's kind of like it's 11 o'clock, so I should finish eating. Yeah, so I wouldn't recommend it. I remember when I was like going to college, I lived in Phoenix, and I paid a shitty ass, like, was it $500 a month, $450 a month for my apartment in Tempe, because I went to Arizona State. For a 2-bedroom apartment. Nothing home to cry about. And this was a long time ago. This is almost 25 years ago now. Oh god. I think it's even more than that. Don't ask what I've been doing in my life. And I've always kind of wondered, when I graduated, I wanted to get out of Phoenix because I don't like Phoenix. I don't like the heat. The heat makes you so immobile. And I was like, I want to get out. So when I was applying to grad school, I applied to any places outside of Arizona. I did not even consider my alma mater or anything local. I was like, out. In retrospect, kind of wondered if maybe I just stayed. If I just stayed, I'll be in a much better situation. And I'd have probably got a house for cheap. And it would have, and in hindsight, I've appreciated quite a bit because Phoenix is booming. And then maybe because I'm older, I'd have been able to appreciate Phoenix more as a young professional. Not too young anymore. No. That's not what happened. I decided to come to California, but no one told me California was expensive. No one told me that. I was sort of naive, but no one really told me California was expensive. So, and since I was like going to grad school, I was sort of insulated from thinking California was expensive. It just sort of made it work. I just looked like a pauper in my 20s, but I didn't feel poor really, because it was like I was a grad student. I was having a stipend, so life was good. Until you start trying to look for a job and try to actually be a real adult, then you realize that, oh shit, California is expensive. Um, so my my college peers who stayed in Phoenix all have appreciating. Although it did got dinged during the crisis, during the financial crisis of 2008, it did get hammered, and I know people personally that they didn't quite. They're still recovering from that. So, but it's all in all. So now I kind of look back to it. I mean, look back to it and be like, maybe I should just go buy something there. But I can't. But if I bought something there, I couldn't live there because it's like I still don't want to live in Phoenix. I went back to visit like maybe a year ago. The heat, man. And it's not just the heat. It's what this aspect of like walking. This is probably, and even though like I shit on San Francisco as a city for like it's been difficult to live in, I still like San Francisco, even with all the crackheads and all the crazy people building forts in front of in building forts on the sidewalk. I still like San Francisco, and that's why I'm still here. While while everyone is escaping from San Francisco to their idols in like Idaho and Montana, and like in their ranch houses in fucking Utah. I'm here. Part of the reason is because I don't have a family house anywhere in this country. I'm an immigrant. So I'm an immigrant. Even though I was born here, I'm a kind of an immigrant. So there's no place I could there's no place I could escape to if I wanted to. I guess I could go live with my relatives, but it's not like you're going to your parents' house. There's no parents' house for me to go to in in a quiet, peaceful environment. There's no parents' house. So if I was going to leave San Francisco, it's literally me packing up and having to forge a new life somewhere else, and I'm not ready to do that because since moving to San Francisco, what I really enjoy being able to walk. In LA, LA is kind of spread out, so you really can't walk. Depends on where you are. It really depends on if you're in the local places that have like density, like Koreatown or Santa Monica or Westwood. Then you can, LA is sort of spread out, but it has these local dense places, so it's kind of like that. But by the time when I moved back, when I was in LA for a while, I lived in East LA. And it was really not walkable. So, I mean, you try to, even if you could walk, you walk. I did walk because for a while I didn't have a car. So I was just dealing with walks and public transportation. And you can walk. It's just it's so depressing because there's nobody in the street. Nobody in the street. Cars everywhere. So, cars everywhere, nobody on the street. It's kind of so. But in San Francisco here, there's places in San Francisco that kind of it's quite suburbs. Like if I lived in like the outer Sunset or outer Richmond or something in the outskirts. But even in this shitty crack infested shithole, that's why I like being on the edge of the Tenderloin, because I know that in any direction I can get out of it. That's what within a block I can get out of it. That's why just being on the edge is perfect. I still have to deal with the shitty crackhead. I still have to deal with meth people shooting up on the street, but within walking a block in like 3 main directions. I don't go towards Market, but in the other 3 directions I'm out of it. I'm out of the Tenderloin, and I can see something nice. So that's why I don't mind it. A cinnamon stick. Yeah. San Francisco living. It's funny, all these rents crashing. Yeah, there's some nice deals. If you like the modern corporate apartments, you know, really nice deals. Although there's one I really saw for like an apartment for 1600, 1630. Nice studio. That's probably the nicest studio I've seen so far. It was probably the nicest and the biggest studio I've seen so far for 1630. I'd have taken that in a heartbeat, but it's not rent controlled. So I asked her what the maximum rent could be, what the maximum rent increase as the like leasing agent. She was like, no, yeah. So it could go like 2 to 3%, which is the usual rent control increase, up to 10%. And the 10% is there just because California passed a statewide rent controlled law recently. I think this year or something, this year, last year, I don't remember. So California passed it statewide that limited rent increases to 10% on any, because right now rent control is only on buildings built before 1971. I think it's 1971. I don't remember if it's 1971, 1979. So now they passed a statewide law that you know what, over any building, new or old, the maximum rent increase cannot be more than 10%. So, but there's a downside to rent control, because what has happened is that the corporate rents have literally crashed. You're looking at like, because that apartment I was looking at like 1630, I'm sure pre-pandemic that probably went for like 2,500. So like corporates can, so if it's not rent control, they have the flexibility of lowering rent because they know that next year things wouldn't be as bad, so they can raise it back up again. But the rent control places are kind of sticky because they know that if they lower rents, then you've kind of reset the rent for like the next 10 years. You've literally lowered your earnings. You've set your earnings back, but you've set your earnings back for the next, who knows, 10 years. Because whatever you reset it to, then the rent control increases is based on this old rate. So that's the downside of rent control. Rent decreases are sticky. It almost never decreases. It just keeps creeping up slowly. So that's why I, as someone who rents, I like it, but at the same time, from the economic perspective, that's why a lot of economists say that like rent control, yes, it's good if you're a renter and you sort of benefited. So like if you were here 10 years ago, you are awesome. You're probably never going to pay. There are people who pay like rents sub 1,000 rents because they've been here 20 years. You know, rents under $1,000 because it's like if you started your apartment paying $700 a month, just imagine all those increases. It just over the increases over 10 years. So like rent control is awesome if you're like someone who's been in the city for a while. But for newcomers, incumbents, people starting their lives and having to start, rent control is disastrous because one, these buildings are shitty. There's no way to put it. They're just shitty. So if I compared the 1700 one that I was almost considering moving to the corporate one, that was 1630. The corporate one was just much more modern, much intelligently designed. But all these like rent control units and like old, and then these old buildings in which the landlords don't care to like intelligently design anything, they're just shitty. And you're paying 20. I would have, just imagine pre-pandemic. That nice one at 1700 would have gone for like 2200. Just imagine I'm paying 2200 for this shittily designed building. So let me check the time here. Okay. Almost done. I'm surprised I'm actually eating all of this. But that'll be interesting. Because there's almost no carbs in this bread. Well, the bread is the source of carbs, but it's not very much. No. It's always funny when you read all these articles talking about like the demise of San Francisco and people moving and fleeing, and then you have all these commenters be like, "Oh yeah, look at that. Who wants to live around crackheads?" And I'm like, here's the thing about San Francisco. Yes, they are crackheads, but the crackheads are in certain places. Literally, I walk everywhere, so you know so Nob Hill is more expensive because crackheads don't live in Nob Hill. There's a saying. The homeless people don't go uphill. No uphill goes. It's a saying here. I don't know why that is, but it is. So they literally. I don't know what keeps them down. You can see that there is some kind of spread, but literally the spread is it's occurring because they're historically they are like nucleuses of like homeless people, homeless activity that has been there. So Tenderloin has historically been shitty, as in like. It's been shitty since the 1900s and it's still shitty now. We could talk about like policies that has kept it shitty, but it's shitty. And also another reason the Tenderloin is shitty is that during the time of the upzoning where all these buildings were being changed into condos and being upzoned, single like residence units were being upzoned to like either to condos. The Tenderloin, the city like banned upzoning for single resident units. And when single resident units are all these buildings which just one room and a shared bathroom. So there's a lot of those buildings in the Tenderloin, and that's for like low income houses. So it's good that it's there. But what has happened is that all the poverty and everything is kind of concentrated here, and it's never going to get better. It's not a case of Tenderloin getting. It's never going to get better because by law it's kind of designed not to get better. So you have all this. So like in terms of like there are nucleuses of like homeless activity, homeless places. So like Tenderloin is one nucleus, the Mission is one nucleus, parts of the Mission, and then hate is one nucleus. So like as you go out of this nucleuses, then you can see homeless activity, but somehow it get contained. It somehow gets contained that it doesn't really quite spread to the nicer areas. I don't know what this invisible barrier is that doesn't make it spread. So people complain about all the homeless because they have a hotel, they got a cheap hotel in Tenderloin. If they had gotten a cheap hotel in if they've gotten the expensive hotel in Pacific Heights, then you will see that San Francisco is pretty. If they had gone to North Beach, you would see San Francisco is pretty. If they had gone to the Inner Sunset, Golden Gate Park, well, not Golden Gate Park, because then you have like the homeless people from the Haight or something, but you would see San Francisco is pretty. So like, yeah, so you can shit on it, but like, it doesn't change the fact that it's pretty and it's walkable. So that's what keeps me here. And I know that if I had to move because I'm in a position to buy a house, I could probably buy a house now if I decided to like wipe out my savings. But I decided to move because I'm in a position to buy a house. Moving is going to be a decrease in the quality of life. Like buying a house is going to be a decrease in the quality of life, bar none. People talk about renting and throwing money away. It's maybe if you're in a place in where rents are more than mortgages, which is most of the country. Like in most of the country, owning a house, like paying a mortgage is cheaper than paying rent. In most of the country, but in the high cost of living places like LA, San Francisco, New York, paying rent, especially when it's controlled, is cheaper than paying mortgage. If I was going to buy a shitty condo, oh, another thing, there is a disaster in the condo market, especially with COVID, because all these condos have no private space, have no public spaces, they have no outdoor areas. And some of these condos are shitty that you're paying 800K for a condo that has no parking. There's some condos like that. They're getting hammered. But not as hammered. But the single family is doing well. But condos, yeah, so condos are sort of a dicey proposition. And not only condos are shitty. In San Francisco, there are condos in which you're paying $1,000 in HOA. Like, really? On top of property taxes. So $700 in HOA. I'm like, really? So either way, any of these shitty condos, you can get a shitty condo for like 800K. That's like 3,500 or so if you put 20% down. Good Lord, put 20% down. That's like 2,500 or so, 3,500 or so in the mortgage. I'm like, the fuck? Why am I killing myself to pay $3,500 in mortgage? Why? To me, I look at that price and I feel like I would have to be I'll be chained to my job for the next 20 years. I have this mortgage looming over my head because you have to give out a $3,500 check. I'd rather just keep my money in the stock market. And when it's time to escape from San Francisco, just escape and go somewhere cheap and just pay cash somewhere or something. Or maybe be an out-of-state landlord and buy out-of-state property for investment. But so, that's why in San Francisco, rent is not throwing money away. Rent is literally a very sustainable way to live. Some people talk about rent increases, but I guess rent increase is the price you pay if you don't for not putting down a down payment. Because people talk about mortgage, like when you buy a house, you're protecting yourself against rent increases because your mortgage never increases. True. True, but anyway, that's my woes about San Francisco living. What is this? Yeah, good. So that should tide me over till evening, and then I decide if I want how much more I want to eat. There's still some soup left, so I'll finish that before I consider other foods. So I'll see you guys later.